All right, all right, all right. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a couple minutes. I know announced 10:30 Eastern, so I'm a few minutes early, so I'll give some time for folks to get in. The question about the release time, I believe it is at noon Eastern time is the release time for the game, at least here in the United States. So that's why we're doing this stream early in the morning for me. I don't usually stream in the morning, but I thought we'd take it right up to release time. So the release time is in about an hour and a half from now. I don't know if it's different around the rest of the world, but I know in the message boards the developer said noon Eastern for release. So Zachary, what's up? Zachary and Zack back to back in the chat. Look at that. So I actually have the sound on the desktop turned off, at least until we get into the game, because the music plays. Even if you turn the music off on the game, it still plays on the home screen. You may have noticed that in some of my videos. So I'll turn the volume back up on the desktop recording once we get into a battle. So hello to you all. I'm not going to be playing in a campaign during this stream because I've already started my 1861 campaign video, which will be out later today. I've recorded about half of it already. I did have to make a little fix, and I'm going to let you guys know about this now because this is something they actually talked about in the video before we get into my gameplay here today. Talked about this on the message boards. I believe the game is $39.99, either US dollars or euros. So if you're somewhere else in the world, I couldn't tell you, but I think that's what they said was $39.99 for US dollars or euros. Hello, Arwarn, thank you for that. Kyler, welcome, sir. Kyler's one of our newest patrons over on Patreon, and he's going to have one of the units that's going to be in that 1861 campaign. So anyway, Offended Bear, the game is dropping in 90 minutes here in the United States. I can't tell you anywhere else. But that's what they said on the message boards. The developer said 12 p.m. Eastern time. Anyway, so the 1861 campaign, if you do buy the game, I want you to know right off the bat that if you're going to play the 1861 campaign especially, there's a little fix you're going to need to go in and make. And I'll show you how to do that before we get into fighting a battle today. Because I was playing my 1861 campaign yesterday, and there was this horrible problem with attrition. So I build an army. Let's say when you start the 1861 campaign, as soon as the war breaks out, it creates your initial armies for you now. Roger, hello. I'm excited for all you guys that are about to play this game. JD, what's going on? Diraco, by the time it's full release, yes, I believe this will be the definitive Civil War game. It's got some work to do, but the developers are fantastic at responding and dealing with issues. So I'll give you a perfect example, and I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Yesterday I was playing my 1861 campaign, and I noticed that my 20,000 man Union Army of Northeastern Virginia was suffering just crazy amounts of attrition. They went from 20,000 men in a span of maybe 3 weeks down to about 5,000 men. And I knew that couldn't be right, that there was no way that attrition was happening. And so I reported that to the developers on the message boards, and within an hour or two, they had responded, they had figured out what the problem was, and it's going to be addressed in the next patch. But that patch will not be out before the game releases today. So if you play the game, if you get the game today and you play the 1861 campaign especially, expect this to be an issue. And apparently the issue is weather. If it rains, the attrition, there's a number somewhere in there that's causing 100 times the attrition rate that it should during bad weather. So yes, JD, this is awesome. 107 people and counting. This is awesome. So I'm going to show you real quick how to fix that attrition issue if you buy the game today. It'll be fixed by the next patch, which is going to be coming up pretty soon. But what you do, and this is actually, they mentioned this in the message boards in the reply to my post about this, but I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So you have to go into the game files. So in this case, it's on Steam. So I go into Common, I go to Grand Tactician, the Civil War, and you go right here to the folder that says Config. And then inside, actually, no, that's not it. It's Yeah, that's it. And then you go to debug, which is this Word file right here. Now, it's not that hard. Hello, everyone. 116 of you. This is awesome. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. I'd greatly appreciate that. So you look for the weather in the debug, and right here it says turn off. I just went away from it. Hold on. It says turn off weather updates in campaign. Normally this says false. You change that to true, which I've done, and then you just close the file, and that will correct the problem for now because it eliminates the weather from the game changing. So that will fix it until they have the patch. The next patch that comes out, they're saying will address that weather attrition issue. So if you notice that your armies are losing men insanely fast, way faster than they should, it's probably that weather attrition issue that's happening. Yes, Thomas McKenna is correct. It's $39.99 US dollars and also euros, I believe, and it comes out in about 90 minutes, at least here in the US. So let's go ahead. No, yeah, Mike S. In the U.S., and I'm guessing maybe the rest of the world, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, which is in 90 minutes from now. And Mike, you're right. There are modding opportunities there in that folder. And what's awesome, again, is that the developers were the first ones to say, hey, here's a temporary fix. Go in and do this until we get the patch out. They didn't want to release another patch without testing it first, right before the early release today. So, if you don't want to deal with all that, I would recommend just start with the 1862 campaign. It's a lot more stable, but the 1861 campaign is a lot better than it was. So for now, just to do something fun, we're going to take on a historical battle. And I think we'll do Chickamauga as the Union. And I'm going to give the Confederates... I like doing dynamic AI because then I can't predict what the Confederates are going to do based on what they did historically. So let's go ahead and dive into this. And then once the game loads up to the map for the battle, I'll go back in and change my volume so you guys can hear the game again because I have it turned off right now. So yeah, I'm excited for you guys to play this. I hope you've been enjoying the videos from myself, from the Historical Gamer, XTRG, I know, has been doing some stuff. Agrippa Maxentius has had some videos. I think those are the ones that I've seen. But now a bunch of people are going to get it, so I'm excited. But listen, don't expect it to be perfect. Expect yourself to get frustrated. Shane, thank you. I appreciate that. Expect yourself to get a little frustrated, both with the learning curve and also with the things that aren't quite polished yet. But it's got a lot of promise. I'm super excited for you guys to get your hands on this. So let's go ahead and fix the volume here so you guys can hear the game volume now. I have the music turned off. The soundtrack's fantastic for the game, but I have the music turned off for recording purposes. Is modding going to be supported? Good question. You actually can make Zouaves, with the different base statistics. I see what you're saying. So one of the cool things this game allows is for these perks, and I did a video about the perks yesterday. And that allows you to really specialize your units. And actually one of the perks available is to make them Zouaves. And of course you can make them look like Zouaves when you create them because of the customization that's available in the campaign. So I'm the Union. Yeah, generals and colonels like to disobey orders, especially if there's a rivalry between, say, a brigade commander and a division commander. So it means you're going to have to kind of manage those things. So we've got Minty's cavalry here. They're kind of guarding this bridge. So this is kind of the prelude to the Battle of Chickamauga, this first day action that takes place. So let's see, what do we got? We got the 21st Corps under Crittenden. So we're going to go ahead and start bringing them up. Although I may want to keep them here because the Confederates are going to try and cross right here. So let's maybe cover these. There's General Rosecrans. I believe this was Rosecrans' last battle as an army commander because after this he was replaced by George Thomas, who was a Virginian, by the way. One of those rare Virginians who actually stayed loyal to the Union. There's a way to turn that off too, how the map turns like this when you go left and right. The developers actually mentioned that as well, the way to do that. But we're going to go ahead. Let's get a division up here to cover this Ford. Did they fix the 61 not recruiting? Yes, Lone Gamer, they did fix that. In fact, as soon as the war breaks out, and typically the trigger for the war to break out is for the Union to call for volunteers to do the 3-month militia. As soon as you make that decision, the war breaks out. Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, North Carolina leave the Union. And now what happens in the 1861 campaign is actually that a bunch of starting armies are immediately formed. So you get the all the armies you would have seen in 1861. You get the Army of the Shenandoah and the Army of the Potomac for the Confederacy. The Union gets the Department of Pennsylvania, the Department of Ohio, the Army of Northeastern Virginia under McDowell, stuff like that. Well, Wargy, I think the theory with that would be that light infantry is by definition going to be faster in moving around the battlefield than a typical infantry unit. Is the 1st Minnesota at this battle? I wouldn't think so, because the 1st Minnesota would be in the Eastern Theater. The only Eastern Theater troops that were in this battle would have been on Longstreet's corps, because Longstreet actually was sent west after Gettysburg. So imagine being a member of Longstreet's corps fighting in the 2 bloodiest battles of the Civil War. Gettysburg and Chickamauga, they were the 2 bloodiest battles, and some of those troops were at both. So we're going to start covering Lee and Gordon's Mills. Let's see. Can the South trigger the war? I think you can if you fire on Fort Sumter. Catax, 12 p.m. Eastern, so in about 80 minutes. John Bradley, staying safe as best we can here, sir. Where are you in the UK? I love UK. Next to my own country is my favorite place on earth. I'm going to be visiting for the first time next spring. Super excited about that. We got to get our troops into position here. I haven't even checked on Minty's cavalry to see if they're in combat yet. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. Okay, we've also got the Lightning Brigade right here with the Spencer repeating rifles. If you're familiar with Ultimate General Civil War, you'll see that this is much like that when fighting the Chickamauga battle. You're pretty much at the same setup to start. What's my opinion of Braxton Bragg? A better general than most people give him credit for. I think what hurt him as much as anything was his personality. He just had a very abrasive personality. Divide by Zero, thanks for stopping by on break. But still not there are a lot of guys who were great generals but not great army commanders. I think Braxton Bragg's probably one of those people. Andy98, yes. Actually, they born in Oxford, live in Surrey. Very cool. So Oxford, is that considered the West Midlands, or is that too far south to be the West Midlands? Most of my ancestry comes from the Midlands, Birmingham area, and also Nottingham. Anyway, I don't forget what I was saying. Do I know if you'll be able to play on Mac? I'm actually not sure about that. Anyway, what I was saying, I think, was... I have no idea what I was saying. Somebody asked a question about something the developers mentioned, and let me scroll back up and see what it is. Oh, the officers. Yes. They've actually got somebody, I think it's Peter One of the developers, his specific role is to work on the officers, getting more of those into the game. They actually on their website have what they call a roadmap, and you can actually see that after today, with the early release today, what they're going to be working on and in what order. And that's one of the things that they talk about. They also talk about adding more maps to the game for the battles, because right now in the historic or in the campaign, the most of the battles are fought on existing battlefields. So, like, I was fighting the Battle of Vicksburg yesterday, and it was on the Bull Run battlefield, which is fine. But they're going to add more maps, so you get more variety with the battles that you fight during the campaign. Yeah, I'm a Peaky Blinder. You know what's cool about that show, Peaky Blinders, is how well they've pulled off the accents. The Birmingham, or what's called the Brummie accent, is. I thought Oxford was west of London. Oh, Oxford. I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking? I'm not thinking of Oxford. I think I was thinking of. I was thinking of Oxford. Hold on one second, guys. Yeah, Oxford's northwest of London. Can you delay the Civil War? Yeah, I think you can, as much as it depends on you. As the Union, you can hold off on calling up troops, which is what Lincoln did to kind of trigger the war. But of course, the um, Confederacy can still fire on Fort Sumter. Are they doing randomly generated battlefields? I saw at least one yesterday when I was playing, one that didn't look like any historic battlefield. I am not going to get to this crossing before the Confederates do. I'm going to put these guys right here for now. Can you create your own generals? No, not that I'm aware of. 181 people here. Hello, everybody. This is awesome. Don't typically get this many for streams that I do, so I'm very excited about that. That just shows the excitement for this game that is out there right now. So I'm trying to answer your questions as best I can about the game while kind of paying attention to what's happening here on the battlefield. Zachary, we will get to that sometime to do a rematch of Empire, but right now I think a lot of the focus is going to be on this game for a while. My 1861 campaign, my first video should be out tonight. I've recorded about half of it already. I just got to where war was declared. I called up the militia as the Union on March 23rd, and immediately, you start getting armies that populate. So, yeah, I don't know, Lone Gamer, how much you can delay it. I think part of it depends on what the other side does. Um, yeah, Cat Axe. I would guess there's probably a simple way of doing that, of adding your own generals, or at least editing the generals. They're probably all in text files. Harry Lion, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I had to do the Where's Nelson mug. You guys suggested that. Zach Mills, I absolutely think that knowing the battlefields helps. Oh boy, look at all this coming at Minty's cavalry. I should probably dismount these guys. They've got Sharp's carbines, so, but you can see here they're cut off from the rest of the army, so that's not necessarily helpful. Yeah, the only thing about more people in the chat, and there's nothing negative about having more people in the stream. My daughter gets 2,000 and 3,000 in her streams, so it's just hard to keep up and catch everything in the chat. So sometimes folks might feel ignored because they didn't they posted something and you don't see it, especially if I'm trying to play a game while I'm doing it. Oh, what is this? Nelson's Redcoats or something? We got some guys in red uniforms here. I wish I would have got there in time to cover their crossing. Look at those bright red uniforms. John, 58476, with the latest update to the game, the 1861 campaign. As soon as things get started, when Lincoln calls up the militia, here he comes over here. When Lincoln calls up the militia, one of the units that gets created is the South Carolina militia under PGT Beauregard, and that's the unit that you can use to attack Fort Sumter. All Heart Homesteading, they've actually talked about that with the textures and stuff, and I think the issue there is that it would add so much that it would just kill your processor trying to run the game because of all the other things that are happening with the campaign and all the data and everything. I think they explained that there was a reason why that they chose to go with these kind of sprites for the game. And honestly, it doesn't bother me that much because I spend more time out here on this map mode than the other one anyway. What's the most casualties I've seen during a battle? Well, when I fought the Battle of Vicksburg yesterday, when I did my first look of the 1863 campaign, Grant's Army of Tennessee had nearly 50% casualties. Now, some of that was missing, and those were people that actually had just fled the battlefield and showed up later. But I think his killed and wounded were something like 35%. GP, no, it's fine that you repeated the question. I didn't see it the first time, so that's fine. All right, we're getting ready to fire on these guys here. He's just now coming into range. At the tactical level, I think this one's better, and I'll tell you why. P. Dugan, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Final Eclipse, $39.99 and dollars and euros. Is the price that I've seen. So I guess we'll find out in a little over an hour or so. But I would say this one, and the reason why is that this one's more realistic. And you may notice if you saw some of my very first videos from this game when it first came out, when I first got my hands on it a couple weeks ago, that I was still controlling my army like it was Ultimate General Civil War. And you can't do that on this game because this game's not designed that way. This is a game that's really created with you being an army commander in mind. You know, as an army commander, thinking in terms of Ultimate General Civil War, an army commander would not be issuing orders to individual brigades and saying, oh, you know, change your facing to this way. That's done at a lower level. So that's how this is. And that's how it should be. And it takes time for those orders. You know, so you have to know where your commanders are and factor that into things. So if I give an order to Minty right now, it's going to take a while because he's cut off from everybody else. If I give an order to one of these brigade commanders here, it's got to come from the division commander, Van Cleve. And so it's got to take time to get from him to his brigade. Now you can turn that off. I'll show you here in the settings. Some things are optional. European intervention, fog of war, order delays, and then the feuds. And the feuds are where if you have a rivalry, let's say you have a brigade commander that's very famous because he's been fighting well on the field, and you have a division commander that's not so good, there may be a rivalry that develops, and the brigade commander may ignore orders and take his own initiative. And that can be frustrating sometimes, but that is how it would have been historically. Yeah, it is like Scourge of War in terms of having an order of battle messengers and then also bugle range. You can see that. You see the bugle range right here. So if you issue an order to a unit that's within this bugle range, it's pretty much instantaneously followed because the bugle announces the order and they do it. Anybody beyond that range, like these guys down here, have to wait for a courier to arrive. Yes, the 1861 campaign has been improved. For those of you just joining us, there is a fix that is going to be coming in the next patch, but it won't be before the release today, to fix an attrition issue. where the weather is causing 100 times as much attrition as it should. And I think that primarily affects the 1861 campaign. So there is an easy fix for that. And if you go and check later, I'll show you. Or maybe I'll show it again at the end. I don't know. But at the beginning of this video, I showed how to temporarily turn off the weather to stop that from happening. Because yesterday in my campaign that I was recording for the video today, that is coming out tonight, my army went from 20,000 men down to about 5,000 in about 3 weeks because of bad weather. So they're going to fix that. And the developers are fantastic at listening. Over on the message boards, within about 2 hours, I had a response to pointing out that issue, and they had already figured out what the problem was, and they were going to fix it. Yes, units can upgrade, and there's 2 ways that happens. You can see here, not enough experience to select a perk. They get perks. And what perks are available depends on the technologies that have been researched. I shouldn't say technologies have been researched. I've got these guys bunched up on this bridge, but Minty's lost 350 men. It depends on what policies you have in place, what are available. But the perks also, you also gain experience passively in camp. So if you have a general who has a high administration level, they're going to gain experience a little faster in camp. Andrew, I appreciate that. I'm glad that the way I've been explaining it works for you. Don't expect me to do very well in this battle because I am really spending probably more time kind of doing the chat and just talking to you guys about the game itself rather than actually paying attention to my strategy and tactics and what I'm doing. So hope you don't mind that too much. Sorry, I had to yell at my kids. They're being loud upstairs. Yeah, and those perks are at the corps level, the brigade level, and even the army level, I think. So you have multiple layers of perks that are taking place among your units in the campaign. Yeah, acid rain is pretty much it. Oh, offended bear. That sucks. You have to work. I hate when that happens. So yeah, and if you throw out a question and I miss it because I was paying attention to the game and not to the chat, don't hesitate to throw it out there again if I didn't see it the first time. It's coming out in an hour and 6 minutes. 12 p.m. Eastern time. So Lightning Brigade's about to get their combat here. Looks like we got a single, is that one cannon? We've got one 3-inch ordnance rifle there. Let's go ahead and get this cavalry dismounted. Yeah, take care, Nael. Did your red coats run? I don't know. The AI has been improved. It's not perfect. They've got some work to do still, and they've acknowledged that. I would definitely encourage you guys to check out their website and check out the what they call the roadmap for how they're doing things. I tell you what, Minty doing heroic work here. Let's pause for a second and look at the perks. So these perks are different than the perks that the infantry has. So we've got expert scouts. This unit is handpicked troopers who can be used for scouting ahead of the main force without revealing the unit right away. So that's actually kind of cool. Looks like this one has to do with melee combat. Spirited in their charge, the troopers are happy to give their foes the saber whenever possible. Mounted rifles, 1. Used to firing their weapons while mounted. Stormers, 1. These troops prefer fighting dismounted, using a loose formation similar to skirmishers and moving fast like the light infantry. Vanguard, 1. These troopers will not be alarmed if they find enemies in their flanks or rear. And then Lightning Brigade. They're trained to fight according to infantry tactics, moving fast with the horse but fighting dismounted. Kind of like that. Yeah, I would guess Minty's going to be overrun soon. Looking forward to burning down Lawrence, Kansas with Quantrill's Raiders. Oh, man. Is the targeting while mounted? It's not as good. Yeah, that's all figured into it. And of course, you saw from those perks that you can account for that by picking a perk that allows for that. Let's see what the casualties look like so far. I've actually lost more men than he has. That kind of sucks. I was hoping it would be a little better than that. All right, let's resume. This is really just the prelude to Chickamauga, and we're not going to get through the whole battle during this video. I just wanted to play something while we had a chance to talk. Oh, they lit the barn on fire. Perks take effect. I believe they do take effect as soon as you pick one in battle. They're going to add some more battles. I would definitely love to see Fredericksburg. Beyond that, and you know what, Flowers, that's historically what Minty was facing. This was really just meant to be a delaying action on the first part of the battle of Chickamauga. So, you know, this is not the full battle, nor is this meant for me to be win or lose the battle here. This is just kind of a delaying action. It looks like Lightning Brigade has a Confederate unit that has crossed all the way in front of them. They've only lost 54 men so far. Can you save during battles yet? No. And they still only just have the one save during the campaign. You can't have multiple saves. That is going to be addressed, but it hasn't been addressed yet. Lone Gamer, upgrading rail. I have seen in my campaigns, I've seen some buttons where you can click on to build rails in certain places. I don't know exactly how those are made available or not. Telegraphs, yes, you can build those now. And you'll see telegraph offices in certain places like Washington, D.C. And that's also a perk that's available, is you can have telegraph added to units like field telegraphs. Yes, you can also occupy buildings, I believe. The campaign battles have victory conditions. There are victory points. Let me take a look here. I can show you. Your commander will give you objectives, and I believe that affects the morale of the units in the field. So here you can see what the objectives are. Lee and Gordon's Mills. You can see them with the white stars on the battlefield. I don't know specifically how that affects winning or losing the battle. All right, Minty's still slowing them down here. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He's lost 362 men. He's down to 14 rounds of ammunition, though. That's going to be the problem. Sorry, I'm eating my breakfast here. Do the bodies disappear at some point? That I'm not sure about. Yesterday when I fought the Battle of Vicksburg, I know at least for the rest of that day they were there. And yes, there are, the Navy is an aspect of this game. Maybe what I'll do is, toward the end of the stream, I'll go out and we'll go into my 1861 campaign that I'm currently playing. And I can show you a few of those features for those of you who haven't seen it yet. Any sign of damage per second drop off for larger brigades like in Ultimate General Civil War? Not that I have seen. Have I used a 12-pound Whitworth gun in my games? No, I don't think I have. I think you have to get to a certain level of diplomacy among the perks. Oh, they're doing melee attack here. Looks like we're driving them back. I think you have to get to a certain level of diplomacy to be able to get the Whitworths. T-dubs, I had at least one, what I think was a random map yesterday when I was playing, just kind of playing around with stuff. But for the most part, it seems like they're still using historical battlefields. My Battle of Vicksburg was fought on on the Bull Run battlefield, but it said Battle of Vicksburg, which is actually new. Because when the early release first came out, if you fought the battle on the Bull Run battlefield, it called it the Battle of Bull Run, even if it was in Mississippi. Yes, Glenn, riverboats. I'll show that. I'll go into the campaign in a little bit toward the end of the stream and show you guys some of that stuff. Yes, the riverboats are included. You can create river ironclads, river steamers, sea-going ironclads, all that stuff. And what's available out of those things depends on the policies that you've chosen. The policies are like your research in this game. I think we're going to get overrun here. They haven't said anything about the animations, so I couldn't tell you. But like I said, for the most part, I don't play at this level, at least not on bigger battles, because I'm not a brigade commander. I'm an army commander, and so I need to kind of see the overview of what's happening. And there is a learning curve to this. Yes, I think the game is worth a buy. I would gladly shell out $40 for this game, even as it exists now. But it's got work to do. Is that a houseboat? No, I think it was a mill right on the river. Yeah, it's Lee and Gordon's mills. It's just kind of sitting in a funny place right now. Yeah, the airburst of the shells. I forget specifically what kind of shells those are called. But yeah, they were designed to burst in the air over the troops. Yeah, this unit here is not firing, is it? They were firing because they're down to 50 rounds. Not entirely sure why they're not firing. Yeah, Lone Gamer's right. So here's the thing. When you play, this is something I didn't realize at first either. This here is your max range. Now you see that line just disappeared because I changed their range in the order. You have a max range and then you have the instructed range. So this is the max range their guns can fire. But under their current orders, they're only going to fire when a unit gets within this dotted line. Unless I change. Right now they're at medium range orders. If I change it to long range, accuracy is going to be poor at that range. This medium range means don't engage till they get to 150 yards. Short range means don't engage till they get 30 yards away. Is there a Grand Tactician Discord? I'm not aware of one, but I've got one on my channel. But the discussion page, the message boards on Steam are very active, and the developers have been active in that. Minty's been overrun finally. So let's mount up and get out of there, Minty. He's broken. The developers are very good at responding on there. Lee and Gordon's Mills is lost. Lilly has fallen. Captain Lilly was killed at the head of his troops. His men are discouraged by the loss, and the morale to his battalion is determined with no casualties. So that was the battery commander over here, commanding that one unit. Now, Minty's better, more than out of ammunition. He's been overrun. Well, the only impact with burning the mill is that you can't occupy it. I think I could have put troops in there, but now I can't. Yeah, he's overrunning me everywhere now. Yeah, so you know what? Let me do this. Instead of continuing to fight this battle, what time is it? 11:05. Let me go ahead and show you some of the other features of the game. For those of you who are asking questions about that, and I apologize for the sound right now, because I know that the menu sounds probably loud. So let's go to my campaign on where it stands right now. Does a sharpshooter perk help with your range? No, I think it's accuracy. The game releases in 54 minutes, Michael. 12 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll show you a little bit of some of the campaign features. But I can't do too much with that because you can't do multiple saves. So I don't want to like play through my campaign because I'm working on videos for that right now. And then I'll show you guys some of the other stuff like the roadmap of what they're working on as far as what's going to be updated and when. And yeah, let me show you something else about the hovering over to get the tooltips and stuff. Something you'll definitely want to do in the settings. So here's my current campaign. This is the video that I'll be making later. I'll be uploading later today. I'm kind of in the middle of it. So let me show you that first. In the settings, if you get the game, first thing you want to do right off the bat, go to this tooltips time appearance and drag it all the way down to low. Because if you have it on high, you have to sit there for probably a good 5 seconds hovering over something before you get the tooltip information about it. So like see right there where I go to military or I go to finances and then it pops up and says what finances are. That happens much slower if you change that setting. Michael, I appreciate that. I'm glad that you're enjoying the content. So the historical battlefields recycled for battlefields in campaign mode. Benja guy, I think for the most part, they've been generated by geographical. No, you can't save battles right now, just the campaign. They're generated by geographical area. So if you fight a campaign battle in this area right here, it's probably going to be the Antietam battlefield. If you fight up here, it'll probably be Gettysburg. If you fight in this area, you may get Cold Harbor. If you're not near any historic battlefields, then I think it randomly generates one. They do have, let me show you the uniforms option. So let's say right here, Fort Monroe Garrison. Let's say I want to add to the Fort Monroe Garrison. I click on that and it pulls up this screen. These are all the states, north and south. And you can see the number of the level of support. In other words, the percentage of people who support the Union cause in that state. The higher the support number, the more volunteers you will have from that state. Yeah, you can get it on Steam, Dylan, but not until noon Eastern, so in about 50 minutes. You need so many volunteers. You need at least 3,000 volunteers for an infantry brigade. So say I click on Connecticut. I want to form a Connecticut infantry brigade. Now I can change the style of the uniform for that unit. I can choose whether or not they're a new infantry unit, they're a new cavalry unit, a new artillery unit, or a new horse artillery unit. Then I can choose whether or not they're volunteers or they're draftees. Now, I don't have a draft yet, so you can see there's no draftees available. But when there's a draft, I can choose that. Goodman, thank you. I appreciate that. Right now, 12 months is the best I can do. I'll show you the policies in a minute, how you change that, how you make that longer. This is how much it will cost to field that entire brigade. And then you can customize their uniforms. So I can choose the jacket color. And that is showed, like when you fight with them in the field, you will see that. The color will be different. You'll notice the difference on the field. Battles can take a while. There's not a specific style, I don't think, of Zouaves. I guess these are close to Zouaves here. They look kind of like Zouaves. So I suppose... Yeah, there's where you can get your Zouaves. And then, of course, you can customize them. Hey, you want purple shirts? Why not? And there's actually more over here, too. Yellow, so you can really kind of customize these to your heart's content to kind of give a little flavor to your units. I'm also told that once a unit gets to elite status, which I think is when you get a certain number of perks, then they get an additional flag on the field. that you can see, so you can notice that they're an elite unit. I saw somebody post that. I haven't actually seen that in the game yet. Doug, thank you for that explanation about the shrapnel shells. The perk is just the Zouave perk doesn't change what they look like. It just changes how they behave on the battlefield. The Zouave uniforms were so different because those units that chose to be Zouaves were modeling themselves after the French Zouave units. So it was just a personal preference on their part, kind of like how certain units had different colors, different styles. The Iron Brigade had distinctive hats, but those weren't chosen. It was because the other hats weren't available, but then it ended up becoming a source of pride for them later on. So here's the thing. So anyway, so that's what you do. And then all you do is hit the recruit button, and then that unit will go into the field. Now, I tell you what, we'll go ahead and do this because I'm not going. I was going to add a unit to them anyway. So we'll add this brigade of infantry to the Fort Monroe garrison. Now, because they're from Connecticut, you can see here it's going to take 10 days before they get to the Fort Monroe garrison. They don't just magically appear the moment you recruit them. Now, if I recruited a Maryland unit, that ETA would actually be a little lower because they're only coming from Maryland. Whatever state you recruit the unit in, that's where they're going to first appear on the battlefield, but they will eventually join whatever unit you've assigned them to. So if I create a unit to join the Army of the Potomac, they will go to the Army of the Potomac as soon as they're able to get there. All right, take care, Zachary. So that's one thing. Let's go ahead and look at the policies. So here are the policies that I have available as the Union. Every one of these has kind of a positive and a negative to them. How big is the game? It tells you that you need 9 gigabytes free to install, but I don't believe the game itself is actually that big. I think it's closer to 3 gigabytes, if I remember correctly. So anyway, some of these policies have dramatic impacts on the game. So for example, as the Union, as soon as you click on Militia Act, before it even passes, because it takes time to actually be enacted, as soon as you click on that, the Civil War begins. The Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas will secede from the Union, and you will be in a state of war. And once you do that, certain units will appear on the battlefield, certain armies and things like that. Agent Shepard, hello, how you doing? I would say expect this game, especially when you do a campaign, but also a battle, to take a lot of your time. And because you can't save during a battle. So for example, the other day when I made the Gettysburg video, I had to record the entire 3 days worth of videos in one sitting because you can't save. So I couldn't save it after day one and come back and record the next day, my second part. They are going to add that. It's just not available right now. Same with the campaign. You have one save for the campaign. So you can't create an 18. That's why I'm not playing through this campaign right now, because I can't go back and load my save on the campaign. They are going to add that. Yes, there are New York regiments. Let's say you have 12-month volunteers and the time runs out. Do they disappear? No, I believe they do just disappear. You don't get replacements for those. Yeah, there were a lot of New York Zouave regiments. And you can see that when you look at some of these. So for example, this battery here is all the units that appear when the campaign starts. So for example, let's go to one of the armies that appears. So here's the Department of Pennsylvania. That's Robert Patterson's units. These are all 3-month units that will basically be done when that time comes. Now you can upgrade your weapons. And what's available as far as weapons go has to do. Yeah, I would agree with Piece of Schmidt to definitely read the manual. It's very informative, and it will tell you all the basics that you need to know. But so here are the weapons that are currently available to me, and it gives you the stats. Now this standardization number is really important, and this is one of the cool things I like about this game. As you research certain weapons. So right now, I produce Enfield rifled muskets. If I start putting a bunch of those into the field and have a lot of units using those, my standardization number is going to start going up. And what that means, standardization, think of it this way. I explained it to somebody this way yesterday. Think of here in the U.S. the difference between having, say, a Lamborghini and having a Ford Fusion. A Lamborghini is a foreign car that's made somewhere else, has to be imported. It's very rare. So, getting repairs and getting parts for that is not going to be nearly as efficient, cheap, or available as getting something for a Ford Fusion, which is a massively produced auto here in the United States. Same thing's true with these weapons. The higher the standardization number, the cheaper they are to produce and the cheaper they are to maintain in your army. So that's one of the really cool aspects to this, and that's some of the stuff you need to think about. It's not just randomly pick whatever weapons you might want for your unit. Ryan, the game will be available in 43 minutes. Yeah, 255. That's awesome, guys. So glad to have so many of you here today. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing daily content on this game for the foreseeable future. And if you're not familiar with me, I do have a history background. That's what I majored in college. So, my degree background is history, and the U.S. Civil War is actually kind of my bread and butter. If there's one area that I would consider myself to be an expert, it's probably the Civil War. Can you capture guns? Not that I'm aware of. So that standardization, you can see some of these are not researched. And by research, that goes back to, you can see all the different weapons that are available. That goes back to the policies. Certain policies, even like Diplomacy 3. So look, I'll hover over this and let you see it. If I enact Diplomacy 3, relations with the European superpowers can be boosted with further subsidies, and I'll show you the subsidies in a minute. This policy also allows the import of the 6-pounder Whitworth rifle and the ironclad turret ships. So even diplomacy is going to help you with what ships are available and things like that. Oh, Dante, that sounds like a glorious weekend, sir. How cool. You have no chores scheduled? Boy, you sound like me so much. The wife's heading out all weekend. I built my wife a scrapbooking area so she'd stay out of my hair while I make videos and play games. You can detach skirmishers, yes. And click on the abandoned guns. Okay, I did not know that. I haven't tried to do that so far. Can you make the Irish Brigade? Yeah, you could. You could call it the Irish Brigade. You could choose a unit and name it the Irish Brigade if you want. And you could even put Thomas Maher in charge of it if you so choose. So I'll show you some of that in a minute here. You can name a brigade anything. You can also name your ships. Can the British join the war? Yes, they can. And once the fighting starts, you'll see up here in the top right of this menu, there will be a European intervention number, and you can actually see here Canada up here above. And you will see forts and troops. Like right here are some British troops in Canada right here. Or that's a fort anyway. So there's the fort garrison right here. And you can actually build forts and name them as well if you want, which is just kind of a cool feature. You can also have the French down in Mexico over here. And and you'll get notifications of things happening in Mexico with European intervention. Let's look at finances for a minute. T-dubs, what you can do as the Confederacy is you can get states like Missouri and Kentucky to secede. So that's really cool. And I'm told, I haven't actually tried it yet, but I'm told if you run all of the Union units out of the state and capture like the largest city, so if you take St. Louis and drive the Union from Missouri, Missouri will join the Confederacy. If you take Louisville, Kentucky, and drive them out, I'm told that's how you do that. So the Irish, poor Irish, man, they immigrate to the U.S. after the potato famine and then fight on both sides. Fort Oxford incoming. Awesome. Okay, so here's finances. Now, much like would have been historic, as the Union, as the Confederacy, as the government, you have limited say over things like industry. You're not going to be building government factories yourselves, but you can impact the economy. So you can do investments and you can auto manage and just let that happen automatically, or you can do it yourself. You can fund You can raise tariffs, you can raise sales tax, you can raise income tax, corporate tax. You can invest in politics, and investing in politics allows you to have more policies. You can only have so many policies enacted at any one time. Now, you can deselect a policy and no longer have it and choose a different one instead. But yes, I agree. It's got some work to do, but I believe this will be the definitive Civil War game. And you guys will be able to buy it in 39 minutes. Maryland or Delaware, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen that as an option. When you're, let me finish talking about finances, then I'll get to that. These different investments affect everything. Diplomacy, the amount of money you invest in that gives you better import and export prices, and the availability of weapon imports changes. Industry investment gives benefits for heavy industry, boosting productivity and profitability. Agriculture, benefits for farmers and plantations, boosting productivity and profitability. Transportation, reduction of transport's upkeep costs, increased trade flow, increased infrastructure, construction, and repair. So up here you have your sea transport capacity, your river transport capacity, railroad transport capacity. When I give a unit an order to move, they're going to move by any means that you allow them to. Lee Harvey, I appreciate that. Thank you. So if I give Grant an order to move south, if he's got available river transport, he'll do that unless I tell him not to. I don't have to specifically tell him to do it that way. I can just select or deselect what available options for moving. And if there's available rail, he'll move by rail. They can move by rail pretty fast in this game if you've got it available. So transportation, I think that's the one we just talked about. Trade war, investing in trade, increased efficiency of blockades or blockade running if you're the South. Recruitment, this increases the availability of volunteers and draftees. And then civil order, obviously, loss of state support is reduced. So if you have a state whose support is going down, investing more in civil order will bring that support back up in case you're worried about losing the support in a state. Can you recruit black infantrymen? Yes. Let me show you that. I just clicked on production. You'll see there's a lag occasionally in some things. Policies is where that is. So down here, United States colored troops, right here. So an act that allows the recruitment of black volunteers and the forming of African American regiments. This act will greatly increase the number of available recruits, and 3 U.S. colored troop brigades will be added to the Union armies immediately. The use of black soldiers against Southerners will infuriate them and consolidate their morale and resolve. Every one of these policies has a positive, but also a negative, and you have to take that into consideration. So, for example, you might think, oh, you know what, I'm just going to ramp it up all the way to 36 month with Militia Act 4 so I get my troops for 3 years. You can do that, but the downside is you have a lower number of volunteers available. So if you think you can win the war fast, you're better off to stick with 12 or 24 month volunteers because you'll get more troops available, but you won't have them for as long. I'd have to look at the CSA to see. Michael, thank you. I appreciate that. 270 people here. That is fantastic. It might be the most I've ever had in a stream. Again, that shows how excited people are about this game. I apologize if you've been posting questions and I haven't seen them. I'll try to catch up with those. Yes, 7 Years War is a previous title by the same developer, and you'll notice some commonality between the two. What are my thoughts on the improvements made in the limited time I've been able to play it? Christopher, that's one of the things that encourages me about this game. In the 2 weeks that I've had the game, the developers have shown a willingness to listen and a very proactive stance toward correcting things. I posted yesterday about the issue I was having with attrition in the 1861 campaign. Within about an hour and a half, the developers had not only responded to my concern, they had figured out what the problem was and announced that it would be fixed in the next patch. That's what you want to see. And that's what gives me hope for this game. This game is not perfect. It's got work to do. You will find yourself getting frustrated with certain things that don't happen the way you want them to. But understand this is an early access game and there's work to do, but these developers are committed to doing it right. You can tell they have a passion for the period. They have a passion for making it as historically accurate as possible. I have little doubt in my mind that this will be the best Civil War game ever made. Are certain policies locked until you enter a new chapter? Yes, I believe they are, or at least until you unlock certain things. I believe, for example, I think Chapter 3 doesn't kick in until 1863, but I could be wrong about that. Zack, thank you. Take care, sir. We have 34 minutes until the game is released, and it'll be available to all of you. I can't wait to hear you guys give me your feedback and what you think. And it's going to be nice to have a lot of other people playing, because then we have kind of the hive mentality, and we're going to be able to talk about what we learn about how the game works. Right now, there's not many of us playing it. So I've been messaging folks like Historical Gamer and Agrippa Maxentius, and we've talked a little behind the scenes about the game and what we've learned about it so far. Aaron, there's no comparison really with this and Ultimate General Civil War. Ultimate General Civil War is a great game, and I love it, but it's linear, right? You know what battle's coming next, no matter what you do. Can you see the Navy stuff? Yes, Nelson. Let's take a look at that real quick. So in the military, you can click on fleets. So here are my current ships, and I have 4 squadrons right now. So, for example, I have this one under Garrett Pendergast, and I believe that one's in New York right now. You can see it right here. There's actually 2 fleets up here. So that's the home squadron right here. So the home squadron at the moment has, it actually has 11 active ships, and one that I queued up to build but hasn't been built yet, the USS Alert. It's got 11 active ships, 119 guns among all those ships. And with the Navy, you can select it to an offensive or defensive stance, just like the rest of the military. You can give them a patrol order, and then you can give them waypoints. So I can say, for example, I want you to patrol, and I want you to go to here. And I'll have to figure out how to set the waypoints, but you can set, I think, up to 5 waypoints, and they will just kind of move on that way. Or you can set them to be on blockade duty as the Union. Here you can just do your movement. You can just tell them to stop or return to port. Here you can manage your fleet. And just like with the units, you can drag and drop. So these are units right now. These are ships that I currently have that are not in an existing fleet. So let's say I've got the USS Brandywine, which is a sailing ship. It's a large timber ship with, you can see the current speed, the guns. I can just drag the USS Brandywine into the home squadron like so. And then it'll tell you how long it's going to take for the Brandywine to join up with that squadron. It's going to take 2 days in this case. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about? So production. Let's look at that for a second. And then we'll look at the officers too. Yeah, Harry Lion. There's a lot of channels on Discord because we've had a lot of, I get a lot of requests for things. So I created channels for historical discussion. So if you want to talk about the historic U.S. Civil War, there's a channel for that. But then channels for most of the games that I'm actively playing or have played recently. Vengeful Survivor, I'm not sure about Maryland and Delaware. I do believe you can end slavery in the South before the war ends. I'd have to look at the Confederate policies, and I can't do that without starting a new campaign, which would eliminate the existing campaign that I have. Time Weaver, I believe they hinted at the possibility after full release of possibly exploring multiplayer, but it doesn't sound like it's anything that's in the near future or really in the plans right now. Transports are abstracted, but combat ships do appear on the map. You can't fight with the combat ships. All naval combat is auto-resolved, as well as combat between smaller size units. So if you have a division, like an independent division, fighting against another independent division, I think that would be auto-resolved, and you would just get a notification with the results of that battle. So here are all of my manufactories, and new ones can be completed. So if you're investing more in manufacturing, or if you choose certain policies, then you'll notice from time to time, you might look at Connecticut and see that a new gun manufactory is being completed. You don't choose to do that, but it happens on its own. And that's going to obviously improve your availability of guns. If you're in the South, or if you're in the North in some places, like here, Dover, Delaware, these farms in Dover, Delaware, have a 75% slave workforce. Can you reenact the Battle of Schrute Farms? No, probably not, Dwight. Naval battles, you just get a report and they tell you how it went, whether or not any ships were lost and what the state of your fleet is. And typically you'll see then the losing side retreating from that area. So here are all the different things that are being produced, and you can filter this and see, for example, Great Britain's manufacturers, Spain, Mexico, France. So here are the ones in Great Britain. And by Great Britain, obviously, we're talking about Canada in this case. Let's take a look at the officers for a second. Andy, the game is available in 30 minutes, 28 minutes to be exact. It's coming out today. It's coming out at noon Eastern time. It'll be available on Steam. I believe it's $39.99 US dollars or euros. So officers. Here are the current officers that are not assigned anywhere. And you can actually sort these by state, which is kind of cool. So if I create a brigade of Ohio troops, they have to be commanded by an Ohio officer, at least to start. You can replace them later. That's kind of how that works. So I can deselect all of these officers, and I can also choose assigned officers, so I can see everybody that's available right now. Here are all the Ohio officers and what their current rank. Zack, yes, you can get British intervention to get Britain to help the Union. I don't think so. So here we have George W. Morgan. Here's Don Carlos Buell, and you can see all kinds of information about them. This is what I think is really cool. So Buell's current rank is lieutenant colonel. Remember, most of these guys that ended up high-ranking generals, Grant was retired from the, I'll give Grant as a perfect example. Grant's last Army rank when the Civil War broke out was captain. He was a captain at the start of the war. He had resigned from the Army, so he wasn't even active, but he was a captain. He gets promoted to colonel and then really quickly rises up to lieutenant general. But Don Carlos Buell is a lieutenant colonel. Now, I can drop him into a higher role, and I think eventually he will get a volunteer rank higher. So, Nelson, take care, man. Delta, I don't think they've given a time frame for early access. They have a roadmap that shows you everything they're going to do and in what order between now and full release. And so you can kind of tell how close they are to full release by how far they are on that roadmap. So here we have Captain William Sherman, etc. And so looking at any of these guys, you can see what their fame level is. Fame can change based on their performance in battle. So if they do really well in battle, say they're commanding a brigade and that brigade wins a lot of success on the battlefield, that fame number will go up. But that's an issue if you have a really famous brigade commander under a very insignificant division commander. There's going to be a rivalry there. So you have to think of the personal aspect. The personalities matter in this game. Can I change those in political office? I don't think so, but I do know the elections are an issue for the Union where you have to keep support over a certain level. Initiative shows perfect conditions and quite a lot of time for the officer to take initiative. In the battle, he likes to be defensive even if he has the advantage. Leadership, men trust this officer and he knows how to lead them, though he is not what could be considered an outstanding leader. So the number of stars, it tells you specifically what that number of stars means. Administration, he's a good administrator. When men are fed, have ammunition, and are well drilled, they will perform in battle. So administration affects how well they're supplied, how well they gain experience, stuff like that. Tactics gaming, yes, I would say it absolutely is worth buying in the current form. It's definitely worth it. Yes, politics are an issue. So, right here, West Point graduate. Let me show you, see if I can find a political general for you. Okay, here we go. So George W. Morgan here. And you can see kind of his backstory right here. He was appointed by President Buchanan as the U.S. consul to Marseille in 1856 and later became the minister to Portugal. So he is a politically assigned general. Here's why that matters. This officer has acquired his rank thanks to his political status. Commanding troops increases support in his home state, but he's apt to feuds. If removed from command, it will hurt support in his state. So what state is he from? I don't think it says here. Oh, he's from Ohio. We already saw that. So if George W. Morgan's in command of a unit and I remove him from command, that's going to hurt my support in Ohio because he's a political general. So those are all little things you have to think about when making decisions about generals. It's just not a matter of saying, okay, you know what, this guy's stats are better than this guy, so I'm going to promote this guy. It's not that simple, just like it wasn't that simple in real life. Yes, and the officers do impact what happens on the battlefield. If I've got a rivalry between a brigade commander and a division commander, that brigade commander is more likely to disobey orders that are issued by the division commander, and it'll say that on the battlefield. Things like that all really do matter. So, and you can promote leaders from one level to the next, etc. So let me give you an example of that. So let's say I go to the Army of Northeastern Virginia. So here's Daniel Tyler. He's still shown as a lieutenant, and I think that eventually he will see a promotion. Folks had a regular Army rank and they had a volunteer Army rank. That was true all the way up through at least World War II and beyond, maybe. I don't know. So he may have been a lieutenant in the regular Army, but might end up a brigadier general in the volunteer Army, considering that after the war was over, they would revert to whatever their regular Army rank is. How do promotions work? I believe if you just put an officer in a higher command, eventually the promotions just happen organically. You can't actually specifically give a promotion to somebody. Yes, Sealing Cat's right. It takes a lot of time to get used to the mechanics. You will find yourself frustrated, especially in battles. You can't play this game like Ultimate General Civil War. It's not meant to be played that way. You have to think very differently. So let's say I want to go in here and replace Robert Schenck. I can hit replace and then I can see who's available. These are the available unassigned officers. These are the guys who currently have no command. So if I want to choose Joe Hooker, I can go ahead and see his stats. He's little known. He's cautious. He's got distinguished leadership. He's a good administrator. He's foreseeable in terms of his cunning. He's a professional soldier. His focus is artillery. And that matters because if you have a guy who's good with artillery, maybe you want to put him in command of an artillery unit instead of over infantry. So you might want to look for a guy who's specifically good with infantry, like Charles Stone, for example. So I could put him in there. I can hit assign. You can also filter them by who is a suitable rank for that position, because you could promote somebody too high, and it might hurt things. You can also choose assign. So if I just want to promote a guy who's already commanding a brigade to command a division, I've got to choose in the filters the assigned generals. Yeah, Graham, I would say that the tactical battles do need some work. I didn't have any units facing the wrong direction in my last battle that I fought, and I think that's because I left initiative on. I left the generals to take initiative. You just have to be careful with that because sometimes they'll go places you don't want them to go. The guide for the game is in the game itself. I don't know if it's available online as well. Do you build supply depots for a prepared offensive? I would say yes. Harry Lyon, take care, man. So let me show you that, for example. Let's say that as the Union, I've got the Department of Pennsylvania here. There actually is a supply depot right here in Harper's Ferry already. But say I was planning on launching an offensive. I would want to build a couple of supply depots between my supply and where I'm attacking. And all you need to do is go to construction, hit depot, and then you can place a supply depot somewhere within here. Like, okay, right there, I can place a supply depot. And then it'll allow that to build. It won't take very long for it to build. And then you can actually see on the maps supply lines. So right now, the Department of Pennsylvania is being supplied from Washington, D.C. And then I can see whether or not D.C. is getting its supply adequately. So there's the telegraph station. Here's the Washington, D.C. port, which is not blocked. This port is an important infrastructure point where trade and supply flows. So say he was able to blockade this port and I couldn't get supply. I could still get it from over here in Annapolis. It would just go by land and it might take a little longer. Can you rename the regiments, divisions, or change the name of the commanders? You can't change the name of the commanders, but you can rename units. So if I want to change the Department of Pennsylvania to the Army of Pennsylvania, I can do that. And there, it's changed. Same thing with divisions. You can change division names. You know, and I can just make it whatever I want. You can change brigade names as well, same thing. So those are all things that are available to you to do. So if you're manually fighting a battle, do the other fronts pause time? I believe they do, because I don't think there's a way for you to go back out and impact what's going on elsewhere during those given times. All right, we got 18 minutes until release, and we're going to stream right up until release. What rank did Ori and Charles Maine have at the start of the war? Okay, Ryan, you are going way back now. That's a North and South reference. Are there any scripted events? I believe there are some, but I think those are probably impacted by the policies. There are things happening, like with Mexico, with French intervention in Mexico and things like that going on while all of this is happening. So I think the scripted events are fired. Yes, you do. Here at Train Locomotive. Those scripted events are fired by the policy choices that you make. What else can I address here? So here's the strategy screen. This will tell you any current things that are happening as far as places that have been captured, battles that have been fought. Here are the objectives that Lincoln has for the Union right now: break Confederate morale, capture Richmond, Virginia, invade the Confederacy, win the first major battle, maintain a support above 60, which is important for the Republicans to maintain a majority because the Democrats would be willing to pursue peace, capture 10 forts, control West Virginia. You see here, it tells you, capture Wheeling, Grafton, and Charleston to form West Virginia as a state loyal to the Union and demoralize the CSA. So it'll tell you, like as the Confederacy, what you need to do in order to get Kentucky to join the Confederacy. Cut the Confederacy in half. Hold Memphis, Tennessee, Vicksburg, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans to motivate the Union public. That'll give a national morale increase of plus 10. A hybrid of age-odd Civil War II and Ultimate General Civil War. I think that's probably a fair comparison. Maybe even better comparison would be to compare it to age-odd Civil War II and something like, what's Scourge of War? Something like that. How much of an enemy state? Yeah, so Thomas, I think I just addressed that for you. I know there's a delay between what you're typing and what I say. It tells you what you need to do to achieve each of these specific objectives. So that tells me what I need to do to get West Virginia. And these objectives do appear over time. So when the game starts in 1861, these objectives are not all there. So I would guess that new objectives probably can be added. How is the frame stuttering when you aren't streaming or recording? It's pretty much the same. There is a little bit of a lag at times in the game. There's not a tutorial per se, but you have the field book right here, which really gives you everything you need to know. So Julius, what I'm doing right now is actually, 294 people. Maybe we can get to 300. At least as of now, I have support through Patreon because, I'm a small channel. I don't make a lot of money from ad revenue, and I try to keep the ads to a minimum as much as possible. No more than like one every 10 minutes. YouTube likes to add them every 3 minutes, so I usually try to go in and delete some of those ads if I can. But even still, I don't make a lot from ad revenue. I might make, I'll just be honest with you guys. If I get 20,000 views a day, which is a good day for me on this channel, I probably make $30-$40 in a day, which I understand is a decent amount, but this is all I do right now for a living because my day job, I work for an organization called Rachel's Challenge. I speak in schools across the country. I talk about kindness and compassion, just encouraging kids to treat each other better. I work for the family of a Columbine victim, who are some of my dearest friends. They're just amazing human beings. My daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, is named after Rachel Joy Scott, who was killed at Columbine. So I work for Rachel's Challenge. So we're basically shut down right now because so many schools are closed. So I don't have a job right now. This is my job. And I don't make enough to support my family while my wife's working full-time and going to school full-time right now. She's getting her master's in school counseling. So sorry I'm diverging from the game a bit just to talk about myself for a minute. I'll get back to the game in a second. I'll answer your questions. So support through Patreon has been huge for me because that helps offset, helps kind of bolster the money I make. And I know not everybody can do that, but so there's a perk on Patreon that I have. I think it's starting at the $10 a month level, where folks get to have a brigade in the game, and they can tell me what name they want it to be, what state they want them to be from, what they want the uniforms to look like, and even what general they want them to be under when possible. So you'll see in my first video of the 1861 campaign coming out tonight that I'll have probably the first 7 or 8 of those patron units in the game. So I apologize that I'm making that like a pay thing, but I'm just trying to find ways to reward those who have chosen to support this channel that way. And I appreciate every one of you who support this channel just by watching the game, watching my videos. You're supporting, and I thank you, and I'm immensely grateful for that. So I don't mean to sound like I'm begging you for money, but it does help, and it does make this justifiable to my wife that I spend 3 or 4 hours a day making videos. Anyway, let's take a look at the field book real quick. So this is basically your tutorial for the game, and it gives you step by step, and I would encourage you to read these in order. They really help you, and before you really dive into the game, like me, I prefer to just play the game and figure it out on my own. I would suggest that if you haven't been watching my videos or somebody's videos, T-dubs, no, there's no option for the kickback on the Steam purchase. I know sometimes games do that. I'm not to the size as a content creator yet that they do that kind of thing, and I don't think Grand Tactician's doing that anyway. Offended Bear, thank you. I try to be, I literally for a living talk about kindness for a living, so if I'm not modeling that myself, then I'm a hypocrite, and I'm not going to do that. So 11 minutes, guys. 11 minutes until the game comes out. I'm so excited for you to be able to play this. I understand how lucky I am to have gotten my hands on this 2 weeks early. I do not take that for granted. So I would highly recommend that you read the field book. It tells you everything you need to know to get started with the game. Somebody asked about the 1861 campaign. Yes, it's much better than it was, but do not play it unless you're going to make the change that I outlined at the beginning. And I'll show you again real quick what that is. There's an attrition issue that especially affects the 1861 campaign. For those just joining, do this if you're going to play 1861. Right now there's an attrition issue where the weather is causing 100 times the attrition that it's supposed to. The developers are aware of the problem, and the next patch is going to fix it. But it's not out yet. So the game is about a 3 gigabyte download, though I think it tells you need 9 gigabytes available space, but I think it's like 2.7 gigabytes or something. Anyway, if you are installing the game from Steam, in your Steam, basically wherever, like go to your disk drive, your hard drive, and go to Steam Library, Steam Apps, Common, Grand Tactician, and go into config. And the developers are actually the ones who suggested to do this until the patch comes out. Go to the debug file right here, and then you go down to where it says turn off weather updates in campaign. It'll say false on yours. Change false to true, and then just close that. That'll turn off the weather temporarily. So the weather's not going to change on your campaign, but it eliminates that attrition issue, because my 20,000 man army went down to 5,000 men in like 3 weeks with bad weather. So, no multiplayer yet. And I don't expect that'll be anytime in the near future. So yeah, if you're able to support on Patreon, thank you. If not, totally understand. Just let those ads run when you watch a video. That helps support. Watch videos all the way to the end. This is true with any YouTuber. The 3 best things you can possibly do for that channel, if you want to see that channel grow and support them, hit the like button, leave a comment, and watch the video all the way to the end. That's how YouTube does its algorithms to suggest a video to more people. So if a video is being watched all the way through, it's getting likes and comments, that tells YouTube people like this. We're going to suggest it to more people. That's how a channel grows. Am I buying the soundtrack? I'm wondering if the soundtrack is going to be available. I don't typically buy albums or CDs or soundtracks because I use Amazon Music. So I have a monthly subscription to Amazon Music, so I can pretty much get any music I want that way. So I can stream it. So I don't know if it'll be available on there or not. Yeah, Aaron Graham, the campaigns are just the starting points. So if you choose an 1862 campaign, you're just starting in 1862. Right now, 61, 62, and 63 are available. There will be a 64 campaign eventually. So Bill, I am kind of part of the team for another game that's coming out, a Naval World War II game that's coming out. So thank you. I appreciate the compliment. But they are listening. And when I reached out a couple weeks ago to say, hey, I just want to make sure you have me on your list for getting the game, and they replied and said, oh, don't worry, you're definitely on the list. So the developers are fantastic. They're a small indie team, but they are definitely fantastic. And they're listening, and they definitely give them feedback. When you get the game here in 7 minutes, go to the discussion board on Steam. Give them your feedback. They listen. They respond. They are on top of it. So, hey, Grand Tactician, hello. I am so excited for more people to get this game, guys. And like I was just saying, there's the developers right there. Great group of guys. They're listening to feedback. They're proactive. They want this game to be what we all want it to be. They're going to do it right. So I know some of you have been burned by developers in the past. I've heard bad things said about Game Labs, for example, and I haven't personally had that experience with them. But these guys are top notch. They're top notch, and they want this to be the best game ever, Civil War game ever, and I think it is already, and it definitely will be at full release. So in 7 minutes, make sure you get it. What aspect of this game do I find most intriguing? I love the complete control to do what I want. I love that it simulates every part of the campaign. It simulates the political aspect, the economic aspect. I love that I can name a brigade and give them goofy uniforms if I want to. I love that I can that I have to deal with petulant commanders in the field, that I have to worry about a Dan Sickles moving his unit out somewhere that I didn't order him to go. That's how it should be. It's frustrating, but it should be frustrating. That's how it goes. So I love that they've taken all of those things into consideration. I love that by playing the game, I can tell that the people who made this game care about the Civil War and care about history. It's very obvious that they care about the history, and they're not just trying to make a fun game. They're trying to make a fun game that appeals to people like me who also care about the history of the Civil War. So, yeah, definitely get it. Definitely get the game in 5 minutes, guys. I'm going to keep this stream going for just a couple more minutes. So if you guys have any more questions, throw them out right now. And I'll try to answer those with our last couple of minutes that we have. So you can see here, Union Invasions 1. Let me click on that because that's where you can very quickly jump to where any invasions may be happening. And that's because an invasion would be considered anywhere that you have troops in enemy territory. What have you missed? Oh, you've missed everything. Just go back. This will be live at the end of the stream, probably about an hour or so after the stream. It'll be live, and you can go back and watch this. Blake, I believe the cost is $39.99. That's the number I've seen. Let me show you one more thing about the map. They've got this. I got to zoom out first to this map screen here. I got to turn this off first. Here we go. So click on here, the Show Paper Map Filters. This is a cool feature. You can see the front lines. Beauregard was a major in the Union Army before the war. He obviously got promoted to a general afterwards. The numbers on the towns and cities, I think that's the level of the town. Maybe a developer can answer this, but that's the, how big the town is, how much it has in terms of manufacturing. So here's the front lines, and this kind of helps you see what areas are more controlled. Now, for example, Ohio, southeastern Ohio is not controlled by the Confederacy, but the Confederacy goes right up to there, which it's kind of crazy to think about that at the start of the war. I live right around here. Alliance is about 30 miles or 30 minutes from my house. And I'm only about a half hour from West Virginia. But so that kind of just gives you a little bit of an understanding of where. Hold on, there we go. Of where the front lines currently are. Intelligence kind of shows you what areas you're able to see what's going on and where you can't so much. The workforce, slavery, because liberating slaves obviously impacts the economy of the South, trade and supply, and then support. The lighter the color, the less support there is for your side in that area. Can troops take over artillery? Somebody said they think you can, like if you detach skirmishers, but I'm not 100% sure about that. You're in Akron, Aaron? Awesome. I actually live in Austintown, right outside of Youngstown. So I'm like 40 minutes from Akron. I'm in Akron like once a week because my daughter sees a counselor in Akron. Why don't I have a link to buy the game via my link code? I don't think they've done any of those. The Battle of Ashtabula, Ohio. Yes! Ashtabula is like 45 minutes up the road from me, or maybe an hour. In theory, if as the Confederates you conquered all of Ohio, you might get some Ohio recruits. I don't know that would happen because you're probably not going to see Ohio turn that much. Cleveburg Pride. That's about it too. I literally live, if you drew a straight line from Cleveland to Pittsburgh, I would live right in the middle of that line. I'm an hour from Cleveland, an hour from Pittsburgh. Yeah, 309 people. So cool. Make sure you subscribe, guys. Appreciate that. Oh, they did confirm you can take over artillery. There you go. Thank you, Bart, for answering that question. 2 minutes, guys. Buy the game. I'm going to wrap this up in just a minute. I can't wait for you guys to tell me all about it. Join us over on my Discord on the Grand Tactician channel and comment and all you want on there. Let me know what you're finding out. I can't wait to hear the feedback. Wow, 318 now. This is cool. Subscribe and hit the notification bells. I'm going to be doing daily content of this game. So I'm excited to do that. I'm going to go ahead and sign out now because it's time for you guys to head over to Steam and buy this game. So take care. God bless. Thank you so much for joining the stream today. We'll see you again soon.